Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about episode 7 of Shadow and Bone. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we get a little more insight into Kerrigan's past, and it's a complicated thing where it's just like, once again, the way they've kind of built this out. Like, okay, he seems earnest. Oh, he seems shady. Oh, he seems super shady. Oh, you're straight up potentially evil. Still kind of twisting it to make it seem like you have a good enough reason for why you're doing what you're doing. Now they're trying to justify it, but make me feel a little for him, considering, like, but once again, we're getting the cliff notes of his life. We're not getting all the beats. We're hitting the major beats that's going to make you feel a certain way. So this one in particular, it's like the woman he cared about at the time, Luda, ends up getting killed by the king at the time, his people. Because once again, and they kind of reiterate it, because he's talking to his mom later on, it's like, the only reason why this situation happened is because I went and fought, I won a war for him, and it's like, yes, and because you went and fought that war, now all Grisha are screwed because they've seen how scary we can be, how powerful we can be, and the king's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You ain't gonna be more powerful than me. I don't want no one out there that this much power. He has to die. I want his head. Like, it's like you kind of created the circumstance. You see, even saying, like, I told you not to stick your neck out for them. And what'd you do? You stuck your neck out for them. And because of that, like, the person you care about is dead. Which that was also a conversation. I'm still not 100% clear on how this immortality thing works for them. Because it's like, it sounds like she was saying, like, oh, if I get, like kind of like similar thing of like the bones. It seems like she's like, if I get some, I'll be able to extend my life like 100 years or something. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you are, because once again, it's a weird thing because it's not like, oh, all Grisha automatically have it. It's like, I think it does have to deal with the bones. Like, if you get a mystical creature's bones, now you make yourself more powerful, you are getting the immortality thing. Well, it begs the question, what about Bagra? Like, there's something there. Like I said, if you, like, maybe I'll understand it in the next episode. Maybe I still won't. I do need someone to explain it to me. Like I said, because I feel like I'm missing like how that immortality thing works. Not the first thing recently I was watching or a story unfolding that I was like, I don't get how the immortality works. And it's like there was something else. There's a video game I was playing where immortality came up, and I was like, I'm still not clear on how that works and why some people have it and other people don't. It's a whole thing, but because I was wondering, is it something like all Grisha can do? It seems like it's something Grisha's can do. Like, because she was just like, it's like, oh, you're immortal. It's like, yeah, you have Grisha powers, but the fact is, because you're a healer, but the fact is that you could do it. It's just, I don't know, like, how she would have gone about it. Like, whether it was simply just the bones and everything of expanding her power, but also, like, her heal. Regardless. That was impressive, though, because I guess the whole point was to also make him seem scarier, because it's like they're shooting on those arrows, so she's healing him while he's fighting them off, just because it's like, oh, like, this way I don't have to do anything, and that, I think it takes a lot of restraint. I guess because truth be told is he was outnumbered, and at the very least, it's like, the concentration needed to make this moment happen, it's like, that it would have, I think it would have been a situation where it's like, he wouldn't have been able to quick draw it out. He needed kind of the element of surprise like he gets later on to do it. So I think he was just more so trying to bolster. Because I think it's weird because it's like in that moment I would have thought you would have just probably wanted to kill all of them. But maybe it's because you know you can't. So you rather freak them out because they're like, oh my god, he's so powerful he can't die. Oh, but no, he's got a healer back here healing him. And it's like, well, I only need one of you. The king wants you in custody. So stabs Luda. He gets so pissed, he breaks the cuffs, the wood, and then, like, slices all their heads off at once. It's like, yeah, it's one of those moments where you're like, it's that quick justice, like, man, yeah, they kind of deserved it. They did what they did. So it's like, it's one of those things that make you kind of feel like, oh, he was kind of justified in his actions. Regardless. But then we also learned an interesting thing. I feel like they never really dived into this too much during the episode, like throughout the episodes, but it comes up every once in a while. There's a specific term, and I'm going to butcher it every time. It's like, it's something with an M. Essentially, it's magic. So that was the thing. Like, there's small science, and then there's magic. The magic is the really scary, dark shit no one touches. It's like Grisha, it's like, as his mom was putting it, Grisha feed off of this a small science. This magic feeds off of us, you know. So she was like, do not dabble in this. But for him, it's like, I could use this power, I could protect all of us, you know, because that's what he's trying to do. It's like one of the things, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, so he's trying to protect all Grisha. True Pitot is it purely self-preservation? Is it purely you trying to like keep an army alive? Because there's also an element of he does feel guilt, because it's like, honestly, because of me, all Grisha are being hunted now, so I'm the main like, there was already persecution, but he's like, you know, he also played a big role in kind of Grisha being treated the way they are. So it is a situation where you understand where he was coming from, of like, I gotta protect my people, but also it's like, well, did you really have the best of intentions? Or were you just trying to make up for your own mistake, you know, or were you just kind of like a little power hungry at the time? Whatever the case may be, we see the beginnings of it, like, you know, because his whole point was to try and do what his predecessors, because like that same name, I don't think it's the Bonesmith. I don't think that's his name, but it's like they had an ancestor who did a similar thing. Like I said, it could have been the Bonesmith, because I don't remember the Bonesmith's actual name. I just remember his name as his Bonesmith, because that stuck in my head. I don't know if that's necessarily their ancestor. It might be, because it's like, right, he made mystical creatures, and that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to do the same thing. It's like, as his descendants, we'd be able to do that. But, what I also thought was interesting, too, is like, his mom's sick right now. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. That was a long time ago, and she was sick. Obviously, she had the black hair. I guess just showcasing she was younger, but now she has the white hair. So I'm like, was she on the verge of dying, and then you made it so that she survived? I'm like, once again, immortality thing, not clear on how that works. But, he was trying to transform all of them, and obviously we see kind of the birth of the Volcra. He was trying to transform them, and he did, because like, I'm going to turn the king's army into mine. You're mine. I've transformed you. But in that moment, it's like he thinks everything's under control, and then he creates the fold. That little sanctuary that the Grisha were hiding, I'm assuming, because she did say, like, oh, men, women, and children. To be fair, it might have been, like, any villages or places nearby, plus the sanctuary. So probably, maybe all the Grisha that were there, maybe they got away. Because the only one we know for sure got away is, he got his mom out of there. So either all the Grisha, like, some of the Grisha got transformed as well, or maybe it only transformed. Like I said, I don't know what kind of effect the immediate area had on Grisha. Because they're, once again, as he said, they're still mortal. They just have powers. So the question is, like, were they affected by it as well? So maybe, because, like I said, it was men, women, and children. There was no women and children there. At least I don't think so amongst the people the king sent. It seemed like it might have just been men, but I didn't check out the entire crowd, so. But at least there, like, we know that there were, like, women and maybe children a part of the Grisha that were hiding, maybe. So maybe that's where it was. But like I said, considering how big the fold is, it could have easily swallowed nearby villages. Well, a lot of nearby villages and groups of people nearby. So maybe that's where it kind of comes into play. But at the end of the day, we only saw him escaping with his mom. So, and obviously present day, you have him trailing after Alina and Mal. And they come across the Stag. Obviously, she has to be the one to put the Stag down. But considering all the vision she had and everything, she's like, no, maybe I don't need to kill the Stag. It's like, he never wanted me to get power, so maybe there's another way. So she goes over and touches it, and she feels a rush of power. Like, maybe becoming, like, attuning with it gave her the power. It's like, there is probably another way of, like, it seems like the whole stealing their bones thing, it seems like it, probably that would have been a smaller amplifier than what she got by attuning with it, like them being kind of on the same wavelength, her coming to it rather than killing it. Probably gave her a bigger boost, but we see in the end what probably the main reason why you need those bones. Like, you need a power boost, but you also need, like, kind of a conductor for, like, what Kerrigan's really up to. But Mal gets shot full of arrows. The Stag ends up getting put down, so Alina fights everyone off, but Kerrigan shows up, and Alina tries to protect the Stag, but it's like, alright, you either protect the Stag or Mal. This is very important to you. You gotta choose. If you let me get the Stag, I will let Mal get healed. And Mal was saying, like, no, kill it, you need to do this, you're the only one that can break the fold. And so she ends up protecting Mal in the end, and he kills the Stag. And it's like, oh, like, and it's like, okay, so now bring me the antlers, because Alina's already gotten the power, so, like, him killing the Stag won't do anything, to my understanding. Or maybe it's like, oh no, I think later on she's saying like because he killed the stag, it's like I can't benefit from it or something like. Whichever way it was. At the end of the day, I thought it was he does keep his word. It's like, all right, he'll Mal and bring them along. Obviously, he needs Mal as leverage to keep Alina in place. And it's like, it's like for him, it's like, you know what the most powerful thing, the thing is, it's more powerful than you, it's more powerful than me? Us together. So basically, he has David as a fabricator basically fuse the bone crown, like the antlers, as like a crown around her neck and fused into her skin. He has one in his hand, and that, like I said, acts as a conductor. Now he shares in her power. It doesn't work both ways. Maybe we'll find out later on she can manipulate it like that, where she can control his darkness. But for now, it seems more like no, I fully control your power. She's like, my power is mine. It's like, yes, but I have better control over it. Just because I think it just, the circumstances give him better control. Plus, he's had his power, like he's had practice with his powers a lot longer. So gaining control over hers might fall in that territory of like, I've just had more experience, so I can like bend your powers to my will. Or it might just be, like I said, the bones just give him that benefit. So, because for him, he's still saying like, hey, at the end of the day, this is all for the greater good. Like, we can save so many lives, we can end so many wars, and it's just like, because she doesn't know what to believe, because like, as she says later on, all he's done is lie. Hell, she even finds out Jinyas a liar, because it's like, oh, you're here, and it's like, yeah, the king is sick. The queen's been confined to her quarters because we don't know if we don't want the queen to catch what the king has. And then it starts falling into place, and Alina's like, you said it yourself. Kerrigan brought you to the king when you were 11. You've always been his. You're his spy. And that's right. She's the reason why Mal never got any of Alina's letters. And she was like, I was just following orders. And she had talked about the fact is that for so long, like, she was kind of like, she was a Grisha without a color jacket, like, one way or another, no blue, no red. Hers was kind of a pale color because she had no place. Like, she even said, I was the queen's whipping girl. And the fact is that, the king came to me night after night. I always wanted to kind of push him off, but I could just, she never could. And now she's in a position where she can, it's like, and even Alina's like, because she's like, if you were in my situation, you would do the same thing. And Alina's like, honestly, the king deserves all your vengeance for what he's done. But the fact is, really working with Kerrigan, it's like, it's not, I'm trying to say, like, basically he's not the good guy that you think he is. But for Jinya, it's like, I'm a soldier, I'm his soldier. And it's like, you're not. We're all his pawns, Because I guess she can't really be like, he's the black character, because, like, no one's going to believe you. It's just going to sound like a fairy tale coming out your mouth of, like, oh, she's talking madness and crazy. So that's why I'm sure she's not trying to defend herself with it, because, like I said, to anyone else, it's just going to sound crazy. Then we have the Kerrigan and Mal thing, where, Mal is promising, it's like, oh, no, like, you should kill me right now, because if I get free, I will hunt you down, and I will kill you myself. And he's like, well, the fact is, unlike you, because you're young, you're a child. And he's like, because obviously he's been around for a long time. He's like, I've got something you don't. Patience. Fact of the matter is, Alina, you're right, won't forgive me anytime soon. But give it enough time, she will. The fact is that she'll look at you a couple, decades down the road, because she's going to live for a long time. She's going to be ageless, but you're going to grow old. And then she's going to realize that there's no one but me, her equal. So he's like, oh yeah, when it's all said and done, like, all I have to do is, I don't have to kill you. Time will do it for me. And then, like, it's kind of a thing of, like, I can wait. I can wait the 50. It might not be, maybe it'll be 1 year. Maybe it'll be 50 years, somewhere in between, somewhere longer. But I can wait. I've lived long enough. I can wait to get Alina to kind of fully be mine. So it's this twist. Once again, he's got that twisted notion of kind of like, oh, this is love. This is love. I do love her. It's like, but she seems more like a tool to you, like, than anything else. Which that even leads to an interesting conversation with them later on, where, like, Alina talks about the fact is of, like, yeah, I know who you are, who you are as a black heretic, why you've done what you've done, like, Because, you know, she's like, together, like, if we legitimately were in this together, you wouldn't have used this on me. Like, kind of, it's his way to kind of bind her a little bit. It's almost like you needed something to kind of control me. Like, if you were really all about us working together, we could have worked together, but this kind of showcases that you kind of have your ulterior motives. Like you needed the power to be under your control. You needed me under your control. That in itself kind of speaks volumes, you know? And he was kind of like, well, fine, if you want to, paint me as your villain, you know, which is like, once again, because for him, he's also saying, like, you're believing my mother's story. You're going off half-cocked about half the story. It's like, I've never lied to you. Yes, I only told you the half-truth, but that's not the same thing as lying. Once again, that's always a splitting hair for some people. Once again, a lie of omission is still a lie regardless. Just because you never directly lied to me, that you only told me some of the truth, you know. But also, it's like, but that also begs the question, has Bagheera told Alina everything? She's only gotten a fraction of the story. Is once again, that's the thing about a situation like that, a story. There's one person's side of things, another person's side of things, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. So it's like, we don't know how much Bagheera fudged stuff, because once again, we don't know why if that was the case, if she's so against him, like, once again, why is he just, maybe she's been playing it low-key the entire time, but also it's just kind of like, I don't know. Now I'm almost, that got me thinking, like, maybe Bagheera's not, I mean, because no one in the series is 100% who they claim to be, who they seem to be. Mal's kind of the only one. Him and Alina, like, seem to be the only case, because we don't know what's kind of going on every other front. So, we do know, like, the spirit advisor, it seems like he kind of moved up, like, ranking-wise, while the king's away and stuff like that, I think. I think he's kind of, I guess, quote-unquote, speaking for the king or whatever type of situation. But, like I said, just don't know, like, not everyone's kind of who they claim to be. So I just think that's kind of an interesting thing. But it's like, makes you think about Bagheera, like, maybe there's something to that. So, while all this is going down, there's also the aspect of our trio of rogues. It's like, what are they going to do now? It's like, you know, it's like, well, and I love that, like, Jesper's so disgusted by, like, you know, because, Inej has to, like, sew her wound, and it's like, and she's like, why are you so freaked out about this when you basically, your bullets rip through people? He's like, it's a little different. It's more like, Val, that's just kind of, you know, but also it's like, Kaz made a decision that they're going back to Ketterdam, and it's like, we can't, wait, what? It's like, cut our losses, and it's like, what are we going to do? And for Inej, it's like, I can't go back to the menagerie. I can't. You don't understand me, Jesper. I can't. He's like, I understand. You know, she's like, you're making this harder for me. He's like, I know. I'd miss me too. I'm pretty fantastic, you know. But it's like them saying goodbye, because it's like, Inej is like, I won't go back to that. So she's about to leave, and, like, you know, Kaz is talking to her. He's like, oh, so this is just you leaving. And she's like, so you got nothing to say to me? He's like, what is there to say? And before she leaves, he's like, you were right about Alina. And it's like, okay. It's like, yes, what she did wasn't a trick. I played it over and over again. It's like, she's a saint. It's like, she's no saint. It's like, okay, so what? It's like, she's a Grisha with the power of light. That doesn't make her a saint. It's like, well, fine. And it kind of leans into what I thought it was. It's because for him, it's like, he doesn't believe in saints. Because for him, it's like, they weren't there in my life. It's like, but who were the people? You, Jesper, the crows. And it's like, yeah, for her, it's like, yeah, the birds you named us after, because, what do you call a flock of crows? A murder, you know, type of thing. It's like, it's kind of the thing of, like, what we can do for you. It's kind of why you named us what we. He's like, but no, like, crows for him, it's like, they don't just remember those who wronged them. They remember those who were important to them, those who watched out for them, who kind of let them know. Like, so he's showcasing, like, you know, you guys weren't just kind of like a means to an end to me. You weren't just like tools for me to use. You guys are, you know, doesn't say it, but it's kind of like, you became a family. Like, you guys watched out for me. No saints looked after me like you guys did. In particular, like you did, Inej. So for her, she's like, I can't go back to Menagerie. He's like, and you won't. And it's like, so Kaz has some plan potentially. It's like, because obviously it's like, all right, we're going to get on a skip. It's like, yeah, with the general who knows what we look like and is going to want us dead. It's like, yeah, but we're going to fudge some stuff. And it's like, we're going to grab Alina. And it's like, saying, like, the way he's talking, because he's even saying, like, all three of us have different goals of what we want, and he's like, I'm just gonna have to respect that, but it still does seem like it is a thing, because it's like, are you really just gonna let that million crew go? It's like, I think Kaz has got one play in him that he's going to lie to them just so it's like, I can get that million, now I can set you free. It's like, but Inej will probably never forgive him for that. You know, it's like, yeah, you might have set me free, but what you've done to Alina, that screws over everything. It's like, especially, you know, because for Inej, she does look at Alina as a saint because of her powers and everything. But I also love that, like, Jesper's looking at papers, is like, whoa, this is saying, I don't even look that age. And it's like, Kaz made some wise comment, like some wisecrack or whatever, and then like Jesper wasn't too happy about it. But when they show up at the skiff, I love it, and it's just like, he's like, I know, I look much younger than my age, and the guy was like, I thought you looked older. Jesper's just kind of smiling like, you SOB. So they're aboard the boat, and you have Alina being chained to the boat, because it's like, okay, you know, and she's like, oh, they're going to notice. It's like, they're not going to focus on that. So, because obviously he's made a spectacle of it, because it's like, oh, gather all these people, because the moment they bring down the foe, the moment people are there, it's going to change everything. Because not only do you bring down the foe, you want all these witnesses, you want to put on a spectacle, a presentation, because this is going to force people to kind of respect you and kind of kneel to you. So, because that's also the thing too for Kerrigan too. It's like the king as well as Zlatan, like them doing what they're doing. It's like neither one of them are good people. Like me doing what I'm doing is actually going to bring people together. We can actually end wars. Once again, is it like is it a sincerity thing, or is it more like a I'm power tripping because I love me some power. Give me that power. I love it type of thing. It's not 100% clear, but we see them going into the fold. Mal managed to sneak away, which I love. I should really talk about that. Like the moment, like, you know, he's trying to find a way to escape, and lo and behold, who shows up? Milo, good old boy Milo, with the bullet Jesper left him around. It's like, oh, funny how things come back around like that. Got the bullet, you know, ignited it so they can break the chain, and he ends up escaping. So he's on aboard the skiff with them. So it's like, all right, time to make their moves. Obviously, Kaz is being like, no one's going to die, no mourners, no funerals, we're all going to come out of this alive. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. The next episode is the season finale, so I'm really interested to see where all these plot threads goes and how they end up wrapping up this season. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.